Hello, and welcome to EduCurious, where we highlight exceptional educators and dive deep into complex issues. Today's guest is Julie Conrad-Peters, new superintendent of the Lake Wales Charter Schools. Welcome, Ms. Conrad.
Thank you, Amber. I am so excited to be here and talking to you today.
Well, we have so many people in the Lake Wales community that are excited to get to know you as a person, you as a professional. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in education for 33 years, so being an educator is absolutely my passion. I'm family first. What I've been learning about the Lake Wales community is that there are a lot of people that are family first, and I think that's a great connection for me. I'm coming to Florida. I'm coming to Lake Wales to be with my family. We just moved this week, and my son actually flew up and then drove with me the 22 hours down here to Lake Wales, and my husband joined me on Wednesday, and so we're here and excited to be here. Some fun facts about me. I was born in Alabama. My dad was an Army aviator. My dad passed in 2005, so actually just this week, 20 years ago. We started in Alabama and then moved up to Wisconsin and then came back to Alabama. So I actually graduated from Virgil Grissom High School in Huntsville, Alabama. And then I went to Auburn University. My dad went to Auburn. My mom went to Auburn. My dad's two brothers and my dad's sister went to Auburn. I have several cousins that went to Auburn. We are definitely Auburn Tigers, and anytime you see me at War Eagle would be very welcome. Sorry for all the Alabama fans out there, Gator fans that I'm offending, but Auburn it is. And then went back up to Wisconsin, and I've spent my whole career up in the Oshkosh area school district, from a chemistry, physical science teacher at the high school level to a curriculum coach, an instructional coach. I was an assistant principal, and then curriculum director for 11 years, and then assistant superintendent of operations for 2 years. So in my 33 years, I've covered just about everything in education.
Talk about some of your experiences that you are excited to employ in our charter system.
One thing that I did in Oshkosh, and I'm very passionate about doing in Lake Wales, is that I was very community involved, being on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Oshkosh, actively involved with the Chamber of Commerce, actively looking for community partnerships. And I have a lot of experience in building partnerships and building community through education. So that was a tagline that we used up in Oshkosh, and I came up with that tagline, and I'm hoping to use that tagline here in Lake Wales. So community engagement, community strategic planning, those are some of the key areas that I have experience in and are looking to bring to Lake Wales for the good of the charter system.
You've done a lot of research about our charter system and how we all operate sort of independently. You have a plan to bring everyone together. Tell us a little bit about that.
So at the meet and greet, one thing that I talked about was looking at Lake Wales not as a system of charter schools, but a charter school system. And I've been using that line ever since that I started looking at Lake Wales charter system, like online, looking at the individual charter schools. When I toured the schools, as I'm like talking with staff, when I'm talking with community members, that's really the key right now, is to really bring us together as a charter school system. I actually teach graduate classes for UW Oshkosh for the administrative pathway for principals and curriculum directors. I actually just got done teaching a course online this summer. But one of the things that I talk about is what it takes to build really good partnerships. And there's three things when it comes to building a system and when it comes to building partnerships. And there's three things that are needed. First of all, an internal champion is needed. So when you're looking at a program, when you're starting a charter school, which we already have 7 of them, you really need an internal champion. So in other words, someone that really has that spark or that drive to get something started. They're going to do whatever it takes to do that. The second thing you need is an external champion. An external champion is somebody outside of that program, that service, whatever you're trying to get started, that can take down barriers and get barriers out of the way. So for example, I see our charter system office as an external champion for our charter schools. In other words, we can be working together to take down barriers, find resources, and get things going for the charter school. Or if you're talking about starting a service, it could be somebody that you have found that helps with resources or planning, but is not directly connected to your program. So that's your external champion. And the third thing would be partnerships and outside partnerships. That partnership could be a family, it could be your PTO, it could be a parent group, it could be a community based organization, it could be even like a nonprofit group, it could be a business. So let's say that you're at the high school level and you're trying to start up a new pathway within there. It could be a business that's associated with that pathway to get things going. But every time that I've been involved in any type of successful implementation, pulling people together, those three things have been key to having a successful partnership launch, a successful system, a successful service.
Talk about some of your accomplishments. They can be like a plaque on your wall, or it can be something that you're just really proud of that you personally want to recognize and say, that was somewhere that I made a difference, and how those accomplishments are going to transfer into your new role.
So, from the system or the district that I just left, one thing that we accomplished is we just passed a $197.8 million referendum. And that referendum was part of a 4 phase plan, consolidation plan for our district. In other words, our infrastructure within our district, we knew that we couldn't sustain the number of buildings, the number of learning spaces that we currently had. We needed upgrades. And at the same time, we also needed to make sure that financially we were a system for 9,000 students versus 10,000 plus students. So making sure that we were right sized in all of our infrastructure, personnel, so that we were providing the best services for students and for families, but as efficiently as possible. So we had passed phase one of the referendum back in 2020. And so one of the things that I was actively involved in was designing and building the 2 schools that were in that phase one. And then going into phase two, which we had passed in April, was designing and putting together the whole like referendum campaign and working as a team to be able to do that. And so we had a lot of naysayers that said that we weren't going to get phase two passed, that we didn't have a plan. We ran into several obstacles that we overcame. We had to pivot a few times, but we did it. And I was very much positive and like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And our team was at times like, I don't know if this is going to pass. And I said, all it takes is one, right? And it was 51%. So we had the one, but we can do it. And we can do things when we're working together and when we turn outwards to the community to help pull that in. And the other thing is that, I can see my fingerprints. I can see my legacy. I can see the work that I did in the new Menominee Elementary School that opened just this past fall, like a year ago in September. So something I'm very proud of.
What are some unique opportunities that you see that you are going to work on tackling day one?
Several people have asked me that. It's like, what are you going to accomplish in the first 100 days? I always go by 90s. I like to think of quarters. So think of, an athletic game, and I like to know what the playing field is. So in the first quarter, in the first 90 days, I really need to be learning more about the community, learning more about the staff, the individuals that make Lake Wales charter systems run. I need to learn more about like the individual charter schools. I need to learn more about the community. I want to meet people. I want to see people. Like, let's just like build relationships. That's my plan for the first 90 days. After that, what I'm looking for is taking that information and figuring out what are the stakeholder groups? How do we start to pull this together? Because one of my goals is to have a strategic plan for the charter system in place by the end of the school year. So in other words, how do we pull this? How do we pull this all together to have one charter system plan? And what is that shining star that we're all working towards while still maintaining our unique identities in each of our 7 charter schools, but having that charter system plan? That's pretty evident that we need something to like point us off into that North Star, that direction.
What is your plan or thoughts around recruiting quality teachers, educators, and really building capacity within our charter school system?
In my time and working under operations and curriculum, finding highly qualified educators at any level in the system, actually finding individuals that are willing to work wherever it is. We need to find individuals that are passionate about working with students. So from there, you can attend job fairs, you can go recruit, you can do those things, which we're going to do, I've done before. Your biggest recruiting tool is your current staff. And so when you have staff that are engaged and are passionate about the school that they're at, the work that they're doing, the students and the families that they work with, that's contagious. And it actually helps recruit or bring others in. Um, in my work, a lot of times when I've done interviews, for teachers or for educators, we'll ask, like, how did you hear about this? What brings you to whatever the system is, the school is, or whatever that you're interviewing for? Most of the time, it's like, oh, one of the staff members is my friend. They're my neighbor. I heard great things about the school district. So we need to be capitalizing on using our staff as recruiters for bringing in educators, support staff, because that is the best way to do that. One of the things that we know about workforces is engagement in a workforce really is dependent on a few things. And the first thing is number one, that staff, when you get them into the system, they feel like that they have the tools and the things that they need to do their job. The second thing is that they really understand what's expected of them, because I don't think there's a single person that comes into any type of position that thinks that I don't want to do well today. I don't want to be excellent. You always want to be excellent. And you can't be excellent unless you really truly understand what is expected of you at work, or what your expectations are. Another key thing is that you have a friend, or you have connections, you have somebody that cares about you at work. That goes back to, you are more engaged. You can recruit when you have that connection with people that you're in there. Just think about it. Anytime something's like gone wrong, or you've been in a crisis situation, it's your connections and who you go to when you're doing that. And plus, hard work is 10 times easier when you're doing it with a team, or you're doing it with people you have really good relationships with. So those are some of the key things. And so to me, recruitment's easy. Your best recruitment tool is having a really good environment and having engaged and supported staff.
As you toured all of our campuses, what were some things that you noticed about some of the schools that you are just so excited about? And you're like, wow, they're bringing amazing things to our system.
So, what I was really impressed with is, especially at the elementary schools, even though it was quote unquote the last day of school, students were engaged in some type of like learning activity, or some type of something that they would consider fun, but it was definitely learning. I visited classrooms where students were doing independent reading, and they were like super happy to share their books with me and what they were reading. There were students that were doing, I call them like workplaces or stations, where they were going through and they were working through different things. There was one group of students that were doing volume blocks with water. So, like pouring different things into different size volume containers. There was one student who was building, according to him, he was building a dinosaur reserve. He could explain all the things that he needed with that dinosaur reserve. So that was very cool. So engagement in those things. And the big thing is that seeing their smiles, they were engaged, and they were also involved in some type of learning. That was seen at the elementary schools. Then when I was up at the high school, we went and saw the different classrooms that were part of different pathways at the high school. And then we were in the culinary area. And I was talking to one high schooler, and she was telling me a little bit about, they had actually just completed making a dish, and then they were cleaning up the kitchen. She was super excited to share what she was doing. She talked about her summer and her plans. And if she's listening, shout out to her. She said she wanted to get over to Cocoa Beach. So I hope she got to do that before school starts on August 11th. She was a junior. And then going into the middle schools, well, Bach North was like, they were right in the middle of like moving around for construction. But once again, kids were engaged, the staff were engaged. And the same thing at Bach South, the students were just like coming in from doing like an outside activity. That was the biggest thing that impressed me, is that even though it was the last day of school, kids were engaged, students were learning, and it just felt good to be in every single one of the schools. There was a great vibe and a great energy.
Well, there's so many people that are very excited to have a united leader, a direction, and we're just ready for it. So tell us about some of the things in your career that you've had to overcome because as a system, we're overcoming change? What are some things that were big learning moments for you, but you came out and you're like, wow, I learned and I'm going to do even better?
What day does not have a learning moment? One thing I had talked about in my interview process was one of the trustees had asked me about like what was something that didn't go well and how did you overcome that? Not a problem. Student information systems and software always seem like anytime you go through a software conversion or anything like that, like just plan on it, like unpromise, over deliver, just know it's probably not going to go well. One thing that we went through in the last system I was at, we went through a software conversion in, I think it was 2015, 2016, somewhere in that range. We had planned and everything was going well and thought we had everything all done. And we were setting up for standards-based grading in the secondary level and all these things. So on the day we were training, on the day we launched, some of the things that we were promised that were going to be up and running were not up and running. As we're sitting in there doing like professional development and getting things ready for our secondary educators for showing them how to use their standards-based grade book and what that looks like and how to work through that. Amber, it did not go well. Let's put it that way. Yep. I had to take a deep breath, had to take a moment, had to tell everybody, yep, did not go well. We're going to fix this. That's one of my phrases. Everything is fixable. We can figure it out. We can do it. So what I did was, okay, you admit like this didn't go well. And then you immediately get a team of educators together who are like the ones, the ones in the training that were going, this isn't going so like, this is not right. This isn't going well. I got that team of educators together. We sat down. We said, okay, where can we pull the levers? What can we do to make adjustments to this grade book, to the parts of the system? Got the vendor on the line. And within 2 weeks, we had reconfigured the gradebook and the part of it to make sure that it was up and running. And we had everything up and running. We retrained and we were ready for the first progress report. So my learning in all of that is one, plan. And at the same time, know that your plan might have to change. And if things are not going right, you bring in the individuals that are closest to and the ones that are actually using whatever it is you're trying to implement to bring in and solve the problem. Didn't go well, but I recovered. So I was still the curriculum director after all of that.
You have experience in so many areas. In particular, what do you feel like is your teaching style that has transferred into your leadership style?
As I work with principals, as I in graduate classes work with educators that are looking to be leaders or looking to be principals, one thing that I give them as a tip is to really think of if you're going to be a principal, think of your school as your classroom. Or if you're going to be like a director, a systems leader, think of like your team like as your classroom and think about be the lead learner. Right. And think through if you were in the classroom, what do? You set your learning target for the day. You set your goal. You have your lessons. You have your things put together. You like activate prior knowledge. You bring in new information. Like you apply and do all those things. How can you use what you know as an educator to start to bring either your school together, your team together, your department together? Also think about like in your classroom, how do you communicate? How do you work through things? How do you keep parents and families informed when you're doing different things? And so my style would be I'm relational and I'm always an educator, always curious. I love the term EduCurious, always curious, but really thinking of your leadership from the lens of a classroom, because no matter where you are in your leadership levels, you are the lead learner, and that's the way that you apply it.
And you said that teachers need to feel like they have the tools they need. Well, as your role in charge of all of the principals, one of your roles is going to be making sure the principals have the tools that they need. So, talk a little bit about that aspect. What are some of the things that you want to do to help empower the principals at the schools to make them the best they can be?
When I start on Monday, that first week, I'm meeting with all 7 principals for a chunk of like a block of time at their school. And that's going to be one of the key things is sometimes you know what you need, And other times you don't know what you need. And so asking questions to get to know everybody and to figure that out. The last thing I want to do is to assume we know what a charter school needs, what the principal needs, what a teacher needs. Like we can have like a structure, we can have a mental model of what we think that might be. But the last thing we want to do or should do is like assume we know what someone needs. And that's the same thing with a child and a family. When you start thinking about when you're having either like parent teacher conferences, you're talking with a student's caregiver, the child's caregiver, you're in an IEP meeting. Very dangerous thing is to assume we know what an individual needs, what a child needs, what a family needs without asking all of the questions before doing that. And so the same thing applies. Once again, it's taking that up there, applying that to every level of the system, making sure that principals, staff, leadership team, the support services that are within that school, we know like what they need and not like assuming. Once again, that goes back to like my 90-day plan is really like taking a look at what do what does what do people think they need? What do individuals feel like they need right now?
Do you have a particular opinion on the role of AI in education? Because that's a hot button topic and it's not something that you directly have to figure out on your own because you have the system, but do you have sort of a formula or a guiding light with that particular aspect?
It was the hot topic in my system with one, how do you approach and use AI with students? Two, how does AI help and benefit staff? Three, as somebody that's working as in a graduate school and teaching graduate classes, how does AI come into play there? And then AI overall when it comes to going out and helping communicate from like either a systems level, a school level, those types of things. So number one is lean into it when it comes to students and be very clear on when it's appropriate to use AI and when it's not appropriate to use AI. Because to think that we're not going to use it or not going to use it to enhance our work or to polish our work, we're not looking future forward. We really need to be helping students understand when do you use it, when don't you use it, like what's the appropriate use, what's the ethical use of AI. And the same thing for staff, because you can use AI to help get you started. You can use AI for lesson planning. You can use AI for different things. But at the same time, AI is probably 80% correct and 20% incorrect. So not assuming that you put it into Chat GPT, you use Gemini, you use whatever the pieces are, and then you're going to come out with something perfect. You have to be editing, revising, looking into it. And the other thing is be careful when using AI that it doesn't become when you're working with a student, you're writing IEPs, you're writing reports, that we lose that personal touch when it comes to how we know individuals. And the same thing for like staff, like when you're writing either staff evaluations or you're doing like you're using it as a tool to help you, making sure that that personal touch and really understanding that there's an individual there and AI is not going to capture that individualization when it comes to things. And then also when it comes to communication like out either through social media or through official press releases is making sure that your voice is captured if you're using AI to assist you. There's sometimes when you're reading something you're going, you don't have the voice. It does feel AI-ish or robotic because you've lost those little pieces of connection. That's the key or my piece when it comes to AI is lean into it, but also at the same time making sure that you're not losing that personal connection and that relationship with your audience because you're not either putting enough information, you're not editing and revising to make sure the voice of either your organization or yourself is coming through.
You touched on personal connection, and that was something that I noticed right off the bat about you. You are very warm, very personal. I'd like if you would share a little bit about more of your personal life, your kids, your family, pets, like that kind of thing, just so we can get to know you a little bit.
So I have an adult son. He is here in Florida. And like when I said about family, that was one of the main reasons that we came down here was to be closer to him. And he's married. He's wonderful, love his wife, his His wife, my daughter-in-law, already calls me mom, so that's good. That makes me happy. My brother and his family are here. They're in Lakeland, and then my sister and her family is down south of Sarasota. So everybody's here. I was the only one that wasn't here, so that was once again something that really pushed me into coming down here. I have a wonderful husband. He is my rock. Lately, I've been calling him my agent. As I was closing out being in my other school district and coming down here, he has been absolutely wonderful. Just picking up and just taking care of things, knowing that he's so supportive of me and my career. He's just wonderful and my rock, and I love him so much. But I call him my agent because like he gets things done for us. So it's the two of us, and it's my 8-pound Yorkie, and so we love her. And we actually got her from my sister because she definitely is hard to handle, and we are like we're the perfect humans for her. So she's 9 years old and is still an absolute handful. So it's almost like I feel like our life at times revolves around this 8-pound dog because we love her. We love her so much. Yeah, one of the things I love to do is I'm very much into Pure Barre, the bar method. When it comes to working out, I'm a little sad because there's not one that's like there's one in Lakeland, but not one right here in Lake Wales. So I'm going to have to figure out my daily routine because I really believe in movement of your body, doing the things that feeds you and your soul, and in feeling good from self-care. Because the older I've gotten, the more that I have figured out that in order to be able to fill other people's cups and to give, you have to be making sure that you are taking care of yourself so that you have something to pour into others' cups. And there's been time in my life where there was nothing in my cup and I was still giving, 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 and you get yourself burnt out. So taking the moment, taking the time to really find what energizes you and what feeds you is really key.
You mentioned your routine. Will you share a little bit about the importance of routine? What is your routine like now in this higher up leadership capacity as opposed to maybe when you were in, just starting your career? How does that evolve and
Oh,
grow?
my routine from when I was in my 20s and in my first teaching job and where I'm at right now is totally different. And also when you have children, your routine shifts. And keeping in mind that in every phase of your life, you have to find the routine that fits for you. And I'm going to keep saying fit because one thing individuals talk about is they go, you got to find the life balance. You got to find balance, got to find balance. And to me, it's not about balance because balance indicates that you're trying to take everything and like make it once again balance, like you're taking everything. To me, it's about life fit, it's about professional fit. Because when you are looking at a fit, you're being purposeful and intentional about what you're saying yes to and how it all goes together. When you're saying, "Oh, you got to find balance," that means you don't have permission to to take something off your plate or to add something on, right? Because you're trying to balance everything. It really is about fit. So when it comes to routine, it's about fit. Like for me, it's about fit. And so what fits for me is like my routine would be is some type of movement or working out like right away in the morning. I knew I had to do it in the morning, right? Because then there's like meetings and things happen and there's a crisis or something comes up. If you wait till the evening to do it, it's very easy to say, I'm not going to do it. For me, anyway, it was very easy to say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it the next day. And then it never happened, right? So getting that movement in and also taking that time while you're doing that movement, whatever works for you, whether for me, it was walking or bar class, that gives you time to like center yourself and be in the moment and get ready for whatever the day is going to bring. And then from there, doing like breakfast, getting ready, like having, like, I'm very much a routine person, like knowing, getting your, like looking at your emails, looking at your calendar, getting set to go, then getting into wherever your first meeting is, getting into the office, and then starting to go from there. The other thing for me when it comes for routine is like my space at home needs to be set up. So like, have you heard the adage of like make your bed every day, right? Make your bed every day, have things like in a certain way because it just brings calm and calm energy into your space. And so those are some of the things that I do, as well as just making sure that your space that you have, either for work, for learning spaces matter, learning, or at home, is like in a good spot, because that's just one less thing you have to worry about, and also brings a little zen into your life. The other thing is, like, when my son was young and going through that, routine was super key, being a teacher, being an educator at the time, and then having, like, a baby, and then as he, like, grew up in there, is if you don't have a routine, children, we talk about, like, like routines, expectations. Children thrive off of that, right? Having what that routine looks like for your family. But even when you're an adult, getting that routine and finding all the things that fit for you, not balance, but fit.
How did you get from being an educator to climb the corporate ladder to get to where you are today? And what do you say to somebody who's trying to achieve certain things rather than balance but fit?
So, first off, when I was an educator in the classroom, I said several times, I'm never going to be a principal. Who would want to be like, principal going into administration? Why would I want to go into administration, that kind of thing. So, as I was teaching, I'm like, individuals would ask me, "Do you want to be a principal?" Or, like, when I was science department chair, they were like going, "Oh, you're really good at this. Like, you should go to school to be an administrator." I'm like, I don't want to be an administrator. But there were individuals along the way that kept saying, I see something in you. And then when I was an instructional coach, a curriculum coach, working with teachers, I got that push again from some of my administrators that I was working with, the curriculum director at the time. My principal of the school that I was a curriculum coach, instructional coach at the time, was like, you need to go get your administrative license. You need to go do this. I see these things in you. And then when I was in teams, or leading projects, it just always seemed to, like, come up that I was looked to as, like, the leader, the voice. It's so, knowing yourself, and when you start to see those little glimmers, you start to see those things that people are saying that they see in you, say, start to recognize, and look internally, look at yourself and say, yeah, I do see those things. Because sometimes we look at ourselves, or we think about our work, we think about what we're doing professionally now, and we can't see anything else. Like, we're in our own little echo chamber. So, tip number one is, when others are saying to you, have you thought about, have you considered, here's this door that's opened, start thinking about it, and start looking at grabbing onto the handle and opening that door, if they're giving you that little push. The second thing is that, when I started on my principal licensure, and I was working on my master's degree, I was in the school law class, and the professor at the time, she was doing this, and I had answered a question, and we were been talking about case law, and she looked at me and she goes, "You are going to be a superintendent someday." And I went, "Okay." And this was in 2006. Here we are 19 years later. But when others are, like, giving you feedback, and they're giving you that push, think about it, internalize it, because they're seeing something in you that you haven't seen, that you haven't necessarily seen yourself. Then the other thing is, has, like, a door opened, has an opportunity presented itself, and are you willing to take that risk? Because a lot of times, and I'll just, being a woman and talking about, like, a female leader, we look at things, and we sometimes don't take the risk, because we're thinking either about our families, we're thinking about all the other things that we may be having to take care of within our lives. And when an opportunity opens, or a door opens, we're sometimes reticent, or sometimes think, wow, should I be walking through this door? Or is it selfish for me to take this opportunity, because it's going to impact, like, either the rest of my family or friends? And I think that's something that a female leader, or that a woman thinks about a lot, is about the impact of all those around them, and not thinking about what could be that impact on you personally and professionally as a leader, if you take that risk, or take that opportunity. Once you're in a leadership position, in a higher leadership position, the loudest voice, and the person that talks the most, isn't necessarily the one that you should be listening to. Being a teacher, it's like bigger ears, smaller mouth, that kind of thing. teddy bear ears, teddy bear mouth. Because if you're listening and you go in with I'm listening to learn versus I'm listening to respond, those are the leaders that you want to be and you want to be in the room. If you've ever heard of the commercial when E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens. And be E.F. Hutton, right? And that's because you're not the one that's the loudest voice you're talking all the time. You're the one that's been taking in all the information. And when you do speak, you have a lot to say and it's going to be taken because it's going to be credible. So that's been my strategy as a female leader is that I'm not the one that knows the most. I'm not the one that talks the most, but I'm the one that listens the most so that when you speak, you really have all the information before moving ahead and either giving feedback or making that decision.
What advice do you have for educators, for employees to have their voices heard? How do they get a hold of the charter system, get a hold of you? Like, what is that route? What do you want that route to look like so it's the most effective?
There's a couple different routes to go. Route number one is that as I'm approaching these 90 days, there's going to be opportunities to talk to me. I will be out and about. Like approach me, talk to me. That's number one. Those types of things. So if you see me, like introduce yourself. The second thing is reaching out to me via email, and then the third thing would be that a lot of times. When we're reaching out and we're talking about things, sometimes something needs to be solved. I really believe that you solve issues, you solve problems at the lowest level possible because it's going to really be the individual that is closest to you or your principal, your school or whatever that's going to end up solving the problem. So, for example, in my previous role, I've actually just recently had a family reach out to me talking about something is listening, taking that in. But 99% of the time, it's not going to be me it's not going to be me solving the problem. It's going to be the next person who's like closest to the problem. So it's going to be knowing who within the system to to point people to talk to so that you can really get problems solved. So when you see me, introduce yourself, reach out, talk. You can always send me an email, and then take the opportunity if something's set up, like either a town hall meeting, a meet and greet. When you see me someplace, I really am listening. Just because, like, you may have given feedback, I may have taken something in, and at the same time, if it doesn't get like either implemented or it doesn't always go the way that you think it's going to go, don't think that individuals haven't listened. That's one of the things that I try very hard to make sure is that it's represented somewhere that, like, I heard you, this is the feedback I got, and then here's the direction that we're going in so that it's transparent. So, yes, we took the information in. It may not have been the feedback or the suggestion that you gave, but that doesn't mean that we didn't listen and we didn't hear you, and making sure that we acknowledge that. That is so key because there are so many times that individuals become disheartened because they don't think their voice has been heard. And so really having the mechanism to talk through, this is the feedback we were given, these are the things that we did, and then here's the decision or the direction that we're moving in. People want to see their voice represented. So the trustee that's assigned to your school is a great way to give feedback. Also, the teacher representative on the board, which is Jamie now. And so getting in contact with her as well. And then also, there's so many times where staff at school will go, I can't go to my principal. I can't talk to my supervisor, those types of things. And I'm yes, you can. Sometimes it's scary. You're like worried about like what the outcome's going to be or what they're going to say. I always tell individuals anticipating a conversation is 10 times worse than what the actual conversation is going to be like, right? And so lean in and have those conversations with your principal, with your supervisor. And if that doesn't work, like we'll take it up the next step, but always solve the problem at the lowest level possible.
Are there any other things that you would like viewers to know about you or you would like to inform people about?
I would say the biggest thing is I want to be as many places as possible. I want to be in schools as possible. And also at the same time, please do not take offense if like I'm not going to be able to get a one-on-one or an appointment with you until like the second or third week in August. There's only one of me and a lot of people to meet and a lot of things to do. So please be patient. Please give me a little bit of grace when it comes to that. And if you see me out and about, please just walk up and introduce yourself. I would love to chat with you. I would love to meet you because once again, that's my first 90 days is getting to building relationships and getting to know everyone so that we can get in a direction to have a systems strategic plan by the end of the school year. But you got to have relationships to be able to do that. And the key word I hear everybody saying is excited. I am excited to be here. My hope is that I can meet everybody's expectations. Everybody's been wonderful and kind, and we're here to do the work. And also, one other thing is, a lot of times I am approachable. I do have a soft voice, but never don't underestimate me or think that I can't make a decision or do hard things because I've done many hard things and I've done them well. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Conrad, for spending time with us today. Appreciate it. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. We'll see you next time.